Now is our time for meditation. So I invite you to get things off of your lap and get those feet firmly planted on the floor. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, and we'll begin taking some deep breaths in and out. Feeling our shoulders relax. Now this morning I invite you to bring into mind those persons or situations that have happened recently or perhaps in the past where you may have a bit of unforgiveness. You know, those things when you feel like you've been done wrong kind of things. Could be in family, or it could be coworkers, or it could be any kind of relationship. And now I invite you to, in your mind's eye, put a circle around each one of these people or situations in your life. Just put a circle around them. And leave them there for a minute as we go into the secret place of the Most High, settling into our heart space, feeling and knowing the love that we are, the love that we came here to be. And just imagining that as we're feeling this love in our hearts, there's this tremendous white beam of love light from our crown chakra all the way through us that grounds us into Mother Earth. And as we continue to breathe and relax and settle in, this light begins to illuminate our entire body. Feeling that love and that peace. I invite you now to envision that this light is traveling down your arms to your hands as you begin to send that love light out to each one of these circles that you have created in your mind of people and situations that you wish had gone differently. And now I'd like for you to see this love light completely disintegrating each circle around each situation and person. And I'd like to do this in the silence. There is no situation on earth that enough love cannot penetrate and disintegrate fear or anger or resentment. If you so choose to do this work and let go of all of that that has been holding you back. Let go of all these resentments, these feelings that no longer serve you, so that you can build a firm foundation for your faith from here on out. And so we feel that love in our hearts, and we remember this is who we came here to be. We are the light. We are the love. We are the peace. And so we choose this now, to move forward, knowing that there's nothing that we can't accomplish as we set our intentions and move forward in faith. And for this knowing, we are so very grateful. And now we bring our attention back into this room, knowing that we can go and visit this space of forgiveness anytime, any place. We say, thank you, God, for these simple teachings, simple tools in our spiritual toolbox. And for this we are so grateful. And so it is, and so we allow it. And now I invite you to open your beautiful eyes. I would like to dedicate the service this day to our beloved Glenn Nelson that made his transition yesterday. I spoke with his son, and when the funeral home came to pick up his body, they placed a flag over his body before they carried him out, and they played taps on their phone. He was a veteran, and I thought, what a sweet, sweet thing that funeral home did for all the family that was gathered there around him when he made his transition. He helped build this church. He was a prayer chaplain for a really long time, and we loved him. And one of the things his son kept telling me yesterday was he loved this place, and he loved each and every one of you. And he will be truly missed, but we will celebrate him when his ashes come back to be with us. And so we send our love and blessings to his family this day. Build something to stand on. So we've been talking about spiritual understanding, and I'm critical of my own monkey mind that goes around and around sometimes when I'm trying to meditate, and it's trying to do things at the church. And so this monkey mind thing led me to this Emmett Fox story. I don't know, maybe you've heard this story before, where these researchers are going into the jungles and they're wanting to study the behavior of monkeys. And so they get these really heavy glass bottles that have long, skinny necks, and they pour nuts down in the bottom of them, and then they take them out into the jungle and they leave them. And then the next morning they go back, and there are all these monkeys sitting with their hands in the jar, in the bottles, the big heavy glass, and they can't move because the glass is so heavy, but they're not going to let go of the nuts. So they can't get their hand out, so they're stuck. They're stuck there. All they have to do, you see, is let go and remove their hand. But they're trapped because they want the nuts. So to me, it's sort of a metaphor of us when we carry these bottles around with us that no longer serve us, when we hang on to things that we don't need to be hanging on to anymore. It's sort of a metaphor for how we are when we're wanting to move forward, but we're not moving forward because there's still things that we need to let go of. So we're looking at spiritual understanding, and we have this new affirmation that we're saying every week together. With spiritual understanding, I know that everything is unfolding for my highest good. When we get like that, when we get like the monkeys, we totally forget that the wholeness of God is in us and in everything. There is no lack of God ever, anywhere, in any situation. And so it's up to us to remember. So my purpose in talking about what's important in understanding is that we figure out who we are and what we are and why we're here and what we're meant to do and be, so that we can leave behind those things that are holding us back and we can move forward and do the good work that we came here to do. We want to be sure that we're on the right spiritual path, and we want to know that our feet are on solid spiritual ground, that our feet are on the rock, that we're grounded in truth with a capital T. And there's many ways in which we can get to know ourselves better. We just had this Discern Your Purpose class with the Callings book, and it was wonderful. There were all these exercises in it, and this week, those of us that took it for credit got together and we did some of the work. We looked at our core values, and you know, it's not easy to take a list of almost 100 words that are potential core values and narrow it down to 10, and then to 6, and then to 2. What is it that you stand for? Who are you? What do you show up as? I love that kind of stuff. I studied sociology in college, and I think these human behavior things are fascinating. So I love that. And we, you know, in the class we took Myers-Briggs, we looked at our personality stuff. But when you sit there with core values and you try to figure out who are you and why are you here and what do you show up as? What are your values? On which rock do you stand, right? And so then we got it down to 2, and then we could create our personal mission statement. This is why I'm here. This is what I'm here to do. And so it's a wonderful exercise. And then last night, I ran across this Brene Brown. I love her work, right? She's amazing. And on her website, you can take this wholehearted inventory, this spiritual inventory of yourself. And I took it last night. It was like 10 o'clock, and I was so excited. I couldn't wait to finish. And I found out I'm in pretty good shape in some areas, but it's very obvious by looking at the results where my work needs to be done, you see. We all are here learning things together and individually on our soul's purpose. And so it became very obvious to me, okay, I've got some work right over here that I need to do some things with. And so then we learn what these things are, and then we take them into our prayer and meditation time, you see, and we ask, so how do I get more of that? Because I want to be able to cultivate authenticity. I want to be, able to cultivate those things that she has in her assessment. It's fascinating. I believe deep down, we all know that we have a soul's purpose and that we came here to express it, and that only we can express it because we are the only ones that have these particular spiritual gifts. And we know this. So it's important for us to build a strong foundation. Even a church has to have core values. We spent 2018 going through our new mission, our new vision, and our core values, Spirit-led. We don't make decisions without asking Spirit first. That's first and foremost. Inclusiveness, prosperity, peace, and love. These are the things we believe we stand for. And we don't make decisions unless they fall in line with those things, you see. It gives us a foundation of who we are and how we can move forward in our lives. That's why it's important for us to have core values. The church needs core values too. So today we're in Scripture. We're in Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 and 25. Everyone then who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain fell, the winds came, the floods came, the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on rock. So what is house metaphysically but the body that God built you? The house, the temple of the living God. You are the temple of the living God. So you need a firm foundation. You need to not be on the sands. We learned that with our last hurricane experience last week. and some of the rains and storms we had yesterday. We know that we have to have conviction about our divinity. We have to know that God is all there is, and we are also divine. We have to know Principle 5, which is God is, I am, I think, I pray, I live. Principle 5 is I live the truth I know. The capital T truth. So when we know these teachings and we live these teachings and we understand that Jesus gave us all the tools that we need. The Gospels are full of how-tos, how to love yourself, how to love each other. It's all there for us. There isn't anything else that we need other than to live it, to live the truth that we know. And our Principle 1, if you get Principle 1, that God is all there is, the rest of it is kind of like, it's all working consciousness. And then the 5th principle is what takes it into action. It's what brings it from ideas into manifestation, you see. So those principles and Jesus' teachings, it's pretty much all you really need. All the master teachers, Buddha, and everybody taught oneness and love. We're all connected. There is no separation between us and the love of God ever. So our ability, understanding is our ability to know that God stands under all things all the time. It helps us to discern that the God rock beneath the shifts, the losses, the turmoil of living. We have that foundation underneath us. All we have to do, you see, is turn within and get centered and remember and realize that we have all the strength, all the knowledge, all the wisdom that we ever need. It's already in us. It's just a matter of taking the time to slow down and remember how precious and special we are. We have to trust, don't we? Like the song. We have to trust in divine order unfolding, and that God's good for us is always unfolding. The problem is we don't always have all the answers. we want to know how it's going to unfold. Okay, God, this is kind of how I'd like to see it happen, This is my agenda, But it doesn't necessarily fall into place that way. We don't have all the answers. We don't really know all the answers. We don't even need to know all the answers. Our job, you see, is to hold that vision and hold our intentions so strongly that the universe goes, yes, I know exactly what you want. Stand back, here it comes. That's our job, not to know the how. But sometimes we have to have a little faith and let it unfold the way it's supposed to. We want to push, push, push and have it be a certain way. You see, understanding is more than mental cognition. It's a spiritual faculty that connects us with our divine intelligence. This is why we can move forward in an assured way even though we don't know all the answers. Because we know God is in the midst of it. Always. Spirit is guiding and directing us. That's why we have our power of faith. Winifred Hausman wrote this wonderful book, Our God-Given Potential. She goes through all the 12 powers that Charles Fillmore discerned, our co-founder. And she says, we must have the spiritual understanding that lifts us above the world. But also we must develop the base which enables us to relate to our world in a spiritual way. So, through developing a deep and sound base, we have something strong to stand on as situations arise in our experience, because they're going to arise. We're here to learn things. We picked this incarnation to come here and have these experiences to be better so that next time we won't have to do this all over again. We'll know how to react and how to be and how to show up. And they will arise because it's just part of our human experience. So, metaphysically, the feet are really understanding is about the feet. Because the feet are what our whole body stands on, right? And so Fillmore says that unity is often said that understanding is symbolized in the Bible by feet. For instance, Jesus washing the feet of the disciples in a lesson is about cleansing our understanding, and it's about being humble. When we think about understanding, we want to think about it at the front of our brain and also at our feet, because those are the two areas where we develop our spiritual understanding. Fillmore suggests that we need to purify and renew our understanding so we have a true understanding of ourselves and others. So, how is it that we do this work? How do we get to this place of having that highly developed spiritual understanding? Well, Winifred Hausman says in her book that there are 7 things that you can do that will help develop your spiritual understanding. And I'm going to go over them very quickly. But she writes affirmations for each one of these in her book, which are really good to work with. The first one is questioning. Questioning old beliefs, old attitudes, old things that no longer serve, so that we can have a greater understanding. It always kind of starts with questioning. The second one is perception. That's grasping hold of new ideas. In perception, you're studying, you're looking for, you're seeking. And so you then have a greater understanding once you develop these new spiritual concepts. The third one is deduction. Deduction is when you take these new ideas that you have gained and you take them into your spiritual practices, into your meditation and your prayer time. The fourth one is prophecy. Prophecy is when you get those ahas, you get those answers. It's like spiritual insight. It's like, oh, yeah. Prophecy, you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. It comes to you. The fifth one is compassion. Compassion is when the truth that you know is now grounded and centered in love. That's the basis of who you are, and you can be compassionate for yourself and for others as well. And then understanding. Now you see and feel and understand all things in the light of the Christ, because you're moving and living from that Christed beingness within you. And the last one, the highest, is the illumination. The highest development of this faculty is seeing the oneness in everything, in all things, always. This activity can not only change your thinking, but it can change your life. I like those ahas. I like those spiritual synchronicities. I like that when we get prophecies, we're just asking the question and then we get this information. So I am on several different people's email newsletters because I always gain insight. So when I find one that resonates with me, I feel like it's probably going to be something that resonates with you. So this week, Dr. Gary Simmons, who you know wrote The Eye of the Storm, which we just studied recently, he and his wife Jane teach the Q effect. And it's sort of about looking at your shadow side and healing those parts of yourself so you can move forward on your spiritual path. And this is what he says. I want to read it to you. In the world of integral theory, there is a teaching which tells us that waking up, growing up, cleaning up, and showing up are all required in order to evolve beyond our yesterday self. We might understand the importance of evolving, expanding our consciousness, and growing in our capacity to be the change we wish to seek in the world, yet it can be easy to miss the importance that within every single moment is the impulse to be more, and instead be distracted into believing that being more is about having more. In doing so, our attention shifts, you see, from living an empowered life with an awareness that life happens as us, through us, and by us, to a victim-induced belief that life happens to us. Change that greatly enhances our capacity to grow is necessary if we are to shift out of this disempowered way of living and it begins with our resolve to evolve. We choose, don't we? Moment by moment, we make that choice. Are we going to be in higher consciousness or lower consciousness? Are we going to be in victim consciousness or vessel consciousness? We are not victims unless we choose it. If we choose to be in that consciousness, then just expect more human trouble coming your way, because it's what you expect, right? So it can come quickly, your spiritual understanding, or it can come very gradually. Everybody's different. But if you feel yourself faltering a little bit, falling off the spiritual path, here's an affirmation. My feet are placed on the firm rock of understanding. Let's say it together. My feet are placed on the firm rock of understanding. And believe it to be so. Believe it to be that way. The other person whose email newsletter I get that I absolutely love is Alan Cohen, the Course in Miracles guy. Lives out in Hawaii. He wrote this week that the pandemic was not a random event or a punishment from God. It was a wake-up call for each of us as individuals and humanity as a whole to make necessary course corrections and live as our natural selves rather than deny those. Let us avoid the need for another 2x4 whack and extract the blessing from the challenge. When we are well rooted in our spiritual nature, the slings and the arrows of the world cannot harm us. We know this is truth. What will you do with your life now? How will you show up? If we establish and maintain a higher quality of connection with ourselves and with each other and our universe, the pandemic will have taught us well. Fortunately, we've worked our way out of most of the nightmare. Will you stay awake now? Will you stay awake? We've had our time out. We've had our pause. We've had our cocooning. So long we have cocooned. Some of us have become more than one butterfly. We've cocooned many times. We had lots of time. So there's no excuse for us not to be able to move forward now. I think we're awake, and I think we're ready, and my bet is on you. And so it is. So it's time for a little joke. So this lady is telling a story, and she says that her laundry-challenged husband has decided he wants to take on the washing of his T-shirt that he has gotten dirty, and so he is not in the laundry room 2 seconds when he hollers out, "What setting do I put it on?" And she said, "Look on the shirt. What does it say on your shirt?" And he said, "University of Oklahoma." Duh. Sound like anybody you know? Oh. Resolve to evolve. As Maria Shriver reminds us, this is the time. This is the moment. Our world needs your presence. It needs your soul to clean up the mess and light up the sky. The moment is now, she said. I'm called. Are you called? Are you called to do the work? Let's hold on to our holy ground and just see how much good we can manifest together. Namaste. Thank you. We have an opportunity now to give back into our beloved community And so whether you're here and you have a check or whatever, we hold those in our hands as we bless them. And if you're at home watching this at a later time, we love and bless your PayPal button or your Breeze link. So we say these words together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so. And so it is. Amen.